Okay, I get it. Okay. Here's a solution I think you guys might like. Due to the nature of Yanfly's action sequences, there is a small issue when it comes to checking input. The sequences are linear, which means that each action is read one at a time. So if you were to try and check for input, it would only register as true if the input occurred at the exact frame the sequence checked for it. Because of this, creating sequences based off of custom inputs is impossible. Until now. Introducing the Sequence Input plugin, an extension to Yanfly's action sequences that allows you to check for input during the sequence. Here's how it works. There are 3 actions added with this plugin: start sequence input, end sequence input, and wait for sequence input. If during an action sequence, the start sequence input is used, the game will start checking for a predefined input. The input the game is checking for can be defined in the first parameter. Examples of this that can be used are OK, which checks for Z, space, or enter, escape, which checks for X, escape, or insert, shift, which checks for shift, up, down, left, or right, and a couple other predefined inputs. More can be added through plugins, and special conditions can be defined in the parameters, but we'll get to those later. The second param for the start sequence input is the ID of the variable that stores the result of the input. The result is a number of frames it took for the input to be pressed after the start sequence input action occurred. Keep in mind that the results only store the first input that occurs. An example of this action being used would be start sequence input, OK, 3, which checks for the OK input and stores the result in variable 3. The next available action is the end sequence input. This just ends the check for input. If there is no input from the start to end of the sequence input, the variable will just be set to 0. And finally is wait for sequence input. This sets it so the action sequence waits until an input occurs. When it does, the sequence input will end and the action sequence will continue. You can also do wait for sequence input max frames, and this will set the maximum amount of frames that will be waited before the sequence input will end automatically and stop waiting. For example, if you did start sequence input OK, 3, and then wait for sequence input 30, the game will wait 30 frames for you to make an input. If you make the input before the 30 frames are up, the sequence input will end and the action sequence will continue and the results will be stored normally. However, if you don't perform the input before 30 frames are up, the same thing will occur, only the variable result will restore 0 since no input occurred. Anyway, let's use this to create a simple timed attack and timed counter in your game. So to start, we'll be using this very simple action sequence I like to use a lot. As you can see, it just moves the user to the target, performs a swing motion on the user, makes the animation occur, and then just does the effect and stuff. Now let's make it so this does extra damage and a different animation if the user inputs at the exact right moment. So to start, we'll go before the motion and do start sequence input. We'll check for the OK input and store the result in variable ID 1. Then below the motion, we'll do end sequence input right there. So we'll just end our check for sequence input. Now we have made it so that variable ID 1 is going to store the result. So let's make it so this determines the actual animation used. So let's go down here, we'll do if $game variables value of game variable ID 1 is say less than 25. Then it'll just do the normal animation like that. Else, if it's something like greater than that, we'll do a different animation. So we'll do animation number 21, and we'll use it on the target like that. And then we'll just end our little if-else sequence right there. And this should be good for our action sequences. Let's copy it and paste it into the skill we wish to use it for. So we'll use it in this very basic attack skill right here. While we're at it, we'll also make it so the formula is affected by this. So for example, we'll do times variable 1 divided by 30, like that, which will make it so variable ID 1 is divided by 30, then multiplied by the actual damage. As you can probably guess, the goal is to push the input as late as possible. The later it's pushed, the better it'll be. However, if it's pushed too late, the sequence will end and it'll actually not do anything. So let's go try it out. So here we are fighting some bats. Let's first attack with all of our party members, and let's start by doing nothing. And when we do nothing, it'll do 0 damage. If we push it like right now, it'll do 13. If we push it a little later, it'll do something like 42. And if we push it right the last second, we'll do an extra animation and get more damage. And yeah, that's really all there is to it. Now, as you can see though, our enemies are using the same exact skill and they're having problems. So let's try and fix that up. To start, let's make it so the damage formula thing only occurs when an actor is using it. So to do so, we'll do a.isActor, like this. Make that a little function, question mark, and if this is true, it'll do the variable ID 1 divided by 30. But if it isn't true, we'll just do 1, making it so the damage is multiplied by 1, and that's it. Also down here, we'll make it so the animation remains the same, and by doing or this dot underscore subject, so subject dot is enemy, like that. And now check to see if the subject is an enemy, and if it is, it'll just use a normal action animation. And now when the bats attack, it should just be normal animation and normal damage. We are good to go. Now this time, let's make it so this action sequence allows our actors to counter the attacks of the enemies. So to do so, we'll go to the very top and actually do a start sequence input above the movement of the enemy. We'll set it to the OK button and store it on variable ID 1. Then when the movement is complete, we'll do end sequence input like this. Now let's make it so the action animation and all this action effect stuff is affected by the variable ID 1. So to do so, let's go right here and do if, say for example, game variables.value of variable ID 1 is less than 25, like this. We'll make it so all this stuff will happen. The animation will happen and the effects will happen like this. However, if it's greater than 25, we'll do something else. We'll make it so the action animation and in fact all this swinging stuff will occur on the enemy. So we'll copy this, paste it down here. We'll do motion swing on target, perform action, motion wait on target again. Then we'll do all this stuff but on the enemy. So set it to user, wait for animation, action effect on user, then death break, and then we'll end our if statement like that. Now once again, let's copy this entire action sequence and use it over top of this other action sequence we did down here by pasting it like that. And also let's remove this really weird variable thing right here, and we should be good to go. And now in our game, we'll just guard with all of our actors and stuff. And when our enemies attack, let's start off by pushing nothing at all. So we'll just wait and push nothing. So here comes our bat, he'll come and I'll just push nothing and it'll do normal damage. But if I do push something right at the right moment, oh, I messed up. It's a little hard to do. Let's try it again. So let's guard with all the actors, and we'll try this one more time. You have to push it after exactly 25 frames, in between 25 and 35 frames. Or, yeah, so, oh, messed up again. Maybe now. Oh, I messed up again. Okay. Well, let's try it one more time. I'm sure I can get it this time. So we gotta do it right when they stop moving, or right before they stop moving. So, here we go. They're gonna come. Boom. There we go. Perfect. So we countered the attack and the enemy did not even attack us. We did the same thing again, so it worked perfectly. And yeah, well, I guess that's our counter. So, yeah, I guess that's all for this video. If you enjoyed, the download link to this plugin is in the description of this video as usual. And also be sure to give this video a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe for more plugins and stuff. Yeah. And yeah, this is sort of hard, but yeah, I guess that's all for now. Until next time, yeah, so, oof. It's sort of hard to talk and do this at the same time. So, like, I just get lost against the weight. Boom, now. Yeah, there we go. So, yeah, I got it. I got this. It's good. Okay, cool. All right, let's keep going. So, these bats are going to keep going, attacking us. I'm just going to sit here. We're all guarding against reducing the damage. But, now. There we go. Countered. We'll do it now. There we go. Another counter. All right, perfect. So, yeah. I guess we're done here. Bye.